Okay, folks, let's take a look at routine, email, and memorandum. If you recall from the Module 4 overview, routine messages are one of the three that we'll be talking about later in this module. However, since routine are the most common and the most often used, obviously, we are going to go ahead and label this discussion about email and memos as routine forms of these two. Organization of an email and a memo are very similar. First of all, there is a subject line in both. Now again, the subject line should be a phrase that summarizes the topic. It is best to provide as much information without being too overly loading with information. If you're having a meeting, something as simple as meeting won't work, but maybe having something that would say meeting, date, time, location, with details inside of the memo or the email would be appropriate. The body, the content, if you wish, of a memo and an email is exactly the same as it was for your essay development. Okay, you're going to have an opening, you're going to have a body, and you're going to have a closing. In other words, you are going to have 3 paragraphs with the initial email and or memo. So the opening, as we've already talked about, as we've already mentioned in the essay development, the opening provides the purpose of the document. State the topic, a very brief background, possibly what the body is going to talk about, contain, and then a transition into the body. The body paragraphs, or paragraphs as the case might be, again, they're going to restate the subtopic. So if in your opening you mentioned we are going to talk about 4 areas of financial development, you will then in the body paragraph or the body have 4 paragraphs, one discussing each of the 4, and in the first paragraph or in each of them you're going to restate which one of the 4 areas of financial development you will be talking about. So you're going to restate the topic, you're going to present brief information, brief details, whatever that may be, again staying strictly on topic, and then you will transition out into the next body paragraph where you will repeat the same thing, restate the topic, present details, transition. The final body paragraph will transition into the closing, or it would wrap up the content of the body itself. Finally, the closing. The closing generally will require an action. You may start with a summary of the facts. Again, this memorandum talked about 4 aspects of financial development. You may provide a final thought on the topic. Again, we never provide any new information in the closing. So it's nothing new is provided. That all should have been done previously, but you can support it at this point in time. Finally, the call for an action. Is it an implied call for action? In other words, if you have questions, call me, for example, or is it an explicit call for action? I want a response back from you no later than September 30th at 12 noon. So again, it needs to have a call for an action at the very end. Take a closer look at the email itself. You've all used email, okay? As you all probably know or do now, it is not text messaging. Emails are complete thoughts, well-written documents, again, opening, body, and a closing. In an email, yes, include the salutation. I would suggest that you start with dear something. Dear Dawn, dear Bill, dear Professor Cordy. If it's somebody you know well, you obviously can use their first name, hi Dawn. Or if it's kind of an open-ended, to many people you could start with greetings or dear all or something of that nature. You should always start it off with some kind of a salutation. Always write incomplete sentences. Yes, it is electronic. Yes, it's down and dirty, but we need to have the complete sentences. Use your upper lowercase, punctuation, all that good stuff is vitally important. Finally, again, in an email, there should be a signature block. Now, the signature block might be, if you wish, the section, the bottom of a letter, for example, where you might have sincerely a space for a signature, though you won't put a signature in an email, but you would have a small space followed by maybe your name. In the corporate world, you usually put in maybe your corporate title, maybe your division. In an email, I always put in other things that would be useful for the individual to contact me. For example, a phone number, a fax number, maybe my full address, business address, in case they wish to write to me. Again, this all appears in the signature block. Now, signature blocks in emails can be set up as standardized. All email programs allow you to create a signature block, so after you actually write the document, it'll automatically insert your signature block. Again, something to consider, maybe not right now, but certainly down the road. What you see here is an example of a fairly well-written email. Okay, the to we know is the individual to whom it goes. The from obviously would be you. The subject, here we go, a nice short, sweet, to the point subject, telephone service request forms. Now the CC would be any carbon copies, people who would, it's good to know for them to know, but they don't need to act on it unless you specifically state that inside the body. So the to person is always the one who needs to act or react. CCs are individuals who may not, typically do not have to have an action. It's more of a for your information type of a supply. BCCs are not used very often. These are blind carbon copies. Now, the purpose of BCCs really are to provide a secret copy to an individual or a group. They're probably limited use of this. I rarely use it. You will probably rarely use it in business. But if you do not want the individual to whom you are sending it to, the to or the CC individuals know that that the person is going to receive it, you will put them in the BCC category. If you have a couple of people that will go in the BCCs, neither one of them will know the other. That's how tight, if you wish, the distribution is on this. The attached, well, obviously you all know how to attach documents, so that's where it would be. Now, the appearance may not be exactly the same, but the information required is the same. Taking a look at the content of this message. Dear Dawn, you can use a colon, you can use a comma, I don't care, but you should have some kind of a salutation. Again, the first sentence should state the purpose. In this case, the purpose is to speed telephone installation and improve service within the main facility. We are starting a new application procedure. Short, sweet, to the point. The transition is a given. If you can write where the transition is a given, particularly for the reader, you don't have to put in, let's talk about what the procedure is. But that one sentence there kind of states the purpose and the transition altogether. The body, the facts, the details, talks about a service request form that is available and it needs to be completed. It tells you when you obtain the form, where do you get it, fill out the information as necessary, you need an approval from an individual, and then finally who to send it to, in this case a Brent White. The closing, again, has a call for an action. This is an implied call for an action. Please call me at 451-0593 if you have questions about this new procedure. What might be missing from here is some kind of a wrap-up, a final thought. I would have probably put it in, but in this particular case it does not have it. We have our signature block, best regards, sincerely, yours truly, however way you want to do it, and the individual who sent the message. J. Murray has his corporate title and obviously his area that he works in. Now, one other thing that probably should have been included in this particular email is that Brent White is receiving an informational copy. Anytime you mention someone in an email, it is best to send them a copy so they are aware that, hey, first of all, they've been mentioned. I would have CC'd Brent White in this particular case. Again, a pretty good format, a pretty good example of a good email message. Some practices you want to make sure that you keep in mind when you're writing email. It can be used, for internal and external communications within the company and outside of the company. Make sure you get your email addresses right. If you use like an address book in your email system, great. If you can automatically add to that system, great. There's nothing like sending out an email where you may transpose a letter or a number and you're waiting, never get a response. Well, they never got the message. So make sure you get the address right. Use an appropriate subject line. Make sure that it actually is related to the content of the email. If not, spam filters might catch it. So be careful with this. Again, not too short and certainly not too lengthy. Just give very snippets of the facts so the individual knows. Again, you're writing, be concise. This is a normal business format. So let's write appropriately. Don't publish anything you wouldn't want published, because it will be. There's been many document cases where individuals think that their emails are within a closed group. They get out and people have lost their jobs as a result. So be careful what you say, to whom you say it, and basically if you don't think it's appropriate for public knowledge, don't put it in there. Don't avoid email, or use email, to avoid contact with the people. We're in this high-tech instantaneous communication. Someday you may be a supervisor, you're going to be doing hiring, you're going to be doing firing. If you got to fire someone, don't get there, send them an email, dear Bill, sorry you're fired, and send it off. Go talk to the person. Again, don't use it to avoid contact. Assume that all email is monitored, because frankly it is nowadays. You may never know it. Maybe not all of yours are, but I'm guaranteeing you some of your messages are. So be careful. Never respond when you're angry. Again, this relates to the don't send anything you wouldn't want published. Again, if it can get out, it will be out. Some samples. Take a look here. The first one here. Very encrypted. I haven't the foggiest idea. Again, this is not an actual one, but this is certainly an example of something I have received in the past. Subject: problems in class. Well, what does that mean? I haven't the foggiest idea. However, let's take a look at the message. Yo, Mr. Cordy. I don't quite understand what that is. Yo, is that a good thing or a bad thing? The message: I'm in you class and having problems, call me today. Well written, right? No. Punctuation is not there. Sentence structure is not there. Word usage is not there. We have a later, I have no idea, no name. I would totally ignore this message. Take a look at another one. A subject of none. Another one, another instance here. Don't neglect the subject. Basically, many people, myself included, if I get an email and where it's got subject and there's nothing in there, I ignore it. I won't even spend my time on it. So in the future, if you send me an email, you don't hear back from me, take a look in your sent file. If you've neglected to put it in the subject, you'll understand why. So let's take a look at this message. Tony. Well, Tony's fine. If the person knows me well enough, they can probably get away with using just my first name. However, the message is kind of encrypted. We have problems, call me. Well, I don't know what this could be about, plus JR. Who is JR? I haven't the foggiest idea who a JR is. Therefore, if we have a problem, I guess the first problem is, who are you? Let's move on. Subject, meeting. Again, I got a couple meetings a day, many throughout the week. Which meeting are you talking about? I need more information. Again, kind of a informal response or formal message. Hi, Tony, which is acceptable if you know the person. Just a reminder of our meeting schedule for May 3, in this case 2005. Well, the May 3 could have been up in the subject. We will discuss budget constraints for the new fiscal year. Well, it could have said in the subject, budget meeting May 3. So that would have been a little more information that would have been helpful. Either bring your own budget reports or use those attached. Problems with this date and time, let me know, and JR is back. Well, there are the three sections. We have an opening, we have a body, and we have a closing. However, there's information that's just not right. First of all, I cannot find my budget reports. No problem. There's some attached, right? No. There is no attachment to this document. If you say you're going to attach something, attach it. Next, it says date and time. Well, I know the date's May 3, but I haven't the foggiest idea with the time. Again, be specific. Let's move on. Again, don't put things in writing. What a loser. Subject. Well, enough to capture my attention, I'll take a look at it. The message, Tony, someone knows me. How did we end up with one of the biggest losers in the world as a manager? The guy has no idea of how to run a meeting. He made me look like a fool. At least I know where he parks his car. Make it worse, person puts their name, Tom Jones. Well, we may be big buddies today, Tom Jones and myself, but someday we may not be. Or there may be instances where I will need to share this. Again, if this gets to the boss, Tom Jones will probably be looking for a new job. Again, be very careful. Don't respond things you shouldn't respond. Don't respond when you are angry. Let's on. Again, this is just another one. There's multiple mistakes in here. It's really, I probably shouldn't have even bothered with it, but the subject caught my eye, and I said, well, I could probably use this in a class. Take a look at the subject here. It's got, how do you spell bachelor? Two O's. How do you spell master? All right, problems here. Read the content. It's full of disjointed information. It still can't spell bachelor or masters or PhDs. So again, this type of encrypted message is a total waste of your time. Finally, this is an example of, again, a not a bad email message. I have class cancellation February 30, 2005. Okay, yes, there is no February 30, but for an example, it gives the information specifically necessary. A class is canceled and the date. I start with the Dear BA 200 students. I come right out and say, due to circumstances beyond my control, I've canceled the class. I tell then in the body some specifics. We're going to postpone the discussions and the activities, and then they can check the course website for details. In the closing, again, a final thought and appreciation for their understanding. If they have questions, they should contact me, and then finally my signature block at the time. Now, the only thing that I criticize my own writing here is the closing. And I say here, if you have questions, please contact me using the information found below. Why do I need to say, please contact me using the information found below? Isn't that kind of a given? So again, even when you think you had the best written document, some things may creep up. But again, it's still not a bad example of how to do an email. Okay, again, check your email. Cute. Let's move on. Memorandums are hard copy. Memorandums are only used within the company. It's an internal document. It's 8.5 by 11. It is, you have your basic formatting, maybe a 1-inch margins all the way around, 1 1/4, whatever the defaults are. Again, don't use the templates that are found in Microsoft Word that can be used for memorandums. They're cheesy. Create these from scratch with a blank sheet of paper. Type the word memorandum at the center at the very top line, and you will see these as we progress. Include your signature or an initial next to the name that is in the from section. Do not include a salutation, no dear Bill, good morning, anything like that. Don't include a complimentary close and a signature block in a memo. Example of a memo, here we go. Here's memorandum is up at the top. We have the to from date subject, very similar to an email. The to is obviously the person to whom you're sending to. Again, type all this up. The from, it would be from you. The date, well, whatever the date of the memo is. And then a subject, very similar to that for an email. You'll notice the gap between the to and Sage, the from and Jerry, the date and June, and the subject request. You should have a nice defined separation there. It looks clean. It looks well written. There is a line that separates the top from the bottom section. It is totally up to you if you want to use that. However, the body of the memorandum is going to be written the same way as the email. You're going to have your opening, your body, and your closings. This example shows you the purpose statement, the information in the beginning. It shows you the details. Now, what's good about this particular memo is that it's using, shall we say, graphic highlighting. We have headers, reason for request, conference details, proposed budget. Those are excellent things to use to help identify sections, information that may be necessary. It is also using columns and whatnot. So again, if you can use these, use these. Don't think you have to make something to include this. But again, a fairly well written and laid out memo. Now, what is missing on this is, if you look at from, it has Jerry McGuire, Special Event Consultant. What it should have next to that is the person's handwritten initials or their signature. Since this is a hard copy document, they should be physically written, initialed, each of these documents. Now, for our purposes, since you are going to be submitting these electronically, you may type in and use a script font to indicate that you are aware of initials or a signature. Again, another sample using graphic highlighting, opening, body, closing. You'll see next to Professor Cordy, I do have a scripty look which would suggest my signature. Again, to date from subject. I have my CCs, BCCs, attachments, any enclosures that would be at the bottom, typically where you would find a signature block. This is the annotated version. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but you can take a look at this. You can pause the screen, take a look at it, and see if this works well for you. It gives a good breakdown of what is where and why. Comparison of unformatted and a formatted memo. The memo to the left actually, I would say, is probably not acceptable because it's only one paragraph. But if you broke it up into its individual paragraphs, it still could be improved by using the one on the right. The chart on the one on the right contains the information found in that huge block of text in the left. Now, I'm again not saying that you should write your memos, emails to incorporate graphic highlighting, especially with the use of a chart. But if you can do it, do it. Remember the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a chart really is a pictorial representation of a body of text. If you can do it, fine. If you can't, don't worry about it. Use other forms of graphic highlighting if you can, bullets, indentations, and so on. Again, just one more example that you can use. If you are going to use enumeration, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, the information you're presenting must be in a logical order, such as chronological order or step order. If the information you are presenting is not required to be viewed, to be completed, to be done in a step-by-step process, use bullets. That suggests unordered lists. Again, just another example for your viewing of charts and images that may be something of value to you. This final little comparison here actually might help a lot. First line header, is there a first line header memorandum, for example? In emails, no. So you don't have it? Yes, you do in memorandums. Do you have a date to from subject? Yes, you do in both. A signature or initials by the from, in other words, your name? No in an email? Yes, in the memorandum. Greetings. Yes, you should have a greeting, a salutation in an email. No, you don't have that in a memorandum. Message style, the same as an essay? Absolutely in both. Opening, body, closing. Concise and to the point? Absolutely. All business writing should be concise to the point, no matter if it's email, memos, letters, reports, whatever. Signature block? Yes in an email, no in a memorandum. Hard copy? No in an email. You'll probably save it digitally. Some people do actually print them up, but generally speaking, no.